Hello and welcome into Off the Bench here on a Friday. Final show of the week. Final show before the Cincinnati Bengals take on the Miami Dolphins down there in South Beach. I'm Reed Milestone Shields. With me, we got a good show for you today. We're going to just put a bow. It's Christmas season. We're going to put a bow around some NFL topics. We're going to talk a little bit about the Bengals game this Sunday. And then at 10:30, we're going to welcome on Keegan Nickerson to talk more about the University of Cincinnati Bearcats. I think the Jizzle James story is it's really intriguing. It's really intriguing to see where it goes from here. We talked with Paul Fritcher yesterday about it. We talked a couple days about it on the show here. It's going to be really interesting. I can't wait to bend Keegan's ear on this whole Jizzle James story because this has the capabilities of going, seesawing either way big time, either A, saving the Bearcats season, or B, completely blowing it up, which it already seemed like it was heading that way anyway. So we'll break that down a little later on. Stone,
what up?
Once again, I thought you were wearing a vest. You are not wearing a vest. Thank you so much for being here
Yep.
on a Friday producing. You're going to have a guest on your show today.
Yep, Joe Danneman, Fox 19. He's going to stop by. We're going to ask him all about the speculation we've all been doing on these press conferences. Unfortunately, we can't talk playoffs this time of year, so we're left with dissecting press conferences from Joe Burrow and Zac Taylor. So we'll have Joe do a little dissecting. We'll talk a little bit about the Dolphins game as well. And, yeah, looking forward to having him on.
Yeah, it's I said this earlier in the week. I genuinely, Wednesday or Tuesday, forgot who we were playing. I knew it was either the Cardinals or the Dolphins. I just didn't know which one in which order it went. And it's a game that I think has flown under the radar the most since I can remember when it comes to football in this town. Since really Joe Burrow took us to the playoffs back in 2021. Maybe since the Ryan Finley starting days or the Andy Dalton days of 2019 where, just the entire week, I couldn't even remember who they played. But we got a great show for you today. They do play the Miami Dolphins. They're going to be starting Quinn Ewers. They have benched Tua Tagovailoa, which I think is really interesting because what happens with Tua going forward? They owe him $60 million on the cap hit. It's going to be pretty similar to the Russell Wilson story a few years ago where the Broncos just had to get rid of him. They're probably going to have to eat that up, and you're going to have to take on some draft picks. You're going to have to – I don't know what happens with Tua, but his time in Miami has certainly run its course, and I cannot explain what happens there. When I think about this game, it is the most confident I have been for the Bengals winning since – probably the Steelers game on that Thursday Night Football, maybe the Jets game. I felt like there was no way in which they lose that game. But I don't know why. There's no reason to, based off of a shutout performance, based off of all the rumors that are swirling around Cincinnati. But and don't even we can break down all the injuries between B.J. Hill and our entire defensive line being hurt. I can't fathom why I'd have any confidence in the Bengals this Sunday, but I do. And I do. Maybe it's just because I got nothing to lose, so might as well just hitch my wagon to being optimistic and go, I think they're going to win down there in South Beach. I think other than the fact that the Dolphins like to run the ball, and they're clearly going to do that with Quinn Ewers that is starting his first time. They're not going to ask Quinn Ewers to drop back 50 times. Other than that fact, I think we match up well with the Miami Dolphins in the fact that they are a tricky team. They are a West Coast team. They're not a hard-nosed football team, and I think we all know that with the Bengals, and over the last few years, they've had problems playing hard-nosed teams, obviously teams like the Ravens and teams like the Steelers and teams like that, the Patriots from a few weeks ago. But I think we match up well with them. I, for some reason, think we're going to win. I don't know what else to talk about other than that. So without further ado, for the next 20 minutes or so until Keegan comes on, we're going to break down some NFL topics here. Buy or sell here on a Friday. We haven't done a buy or sell segment. We do mailbags on Wednesdays, but we haven't done buy or sell in quite some time. So let's kind of whittle down kind of all the storylines going on here in the National Football League. Stone, I gave you I armed you.
You
with
did.
a great list of buy or sells. In fact, some of them aren't even buy or sells. Some of them are just questions. But I've armed you with a list of questions. Let's break it down.
All right, here we go. Buy or sell. The Denver Broncos are the best team in football right now.
The Denver Broncos are a weird team because I think I'm in a collection here of everyone that watches this show and a collection with people that talk about the NFL in saying that it feels like Bo Nix is outperforming everyone's expectations every single week. And there's been some really, really tough moments. But when it comes to winning time, the dude gets it done. And they continue to win. Sean Payton's one of the best offensive minds we've seen over the last 3 weeks. But I'm not there. I cannot get there, despite their record, despite them having, I think they have the best record in the AFC, don't have the standings up in front of me, despite them having the year that they're having because of Bo Nix, I can't get to saying they're the best team in the NFL. Because if there's one thing that I have learned over the last 15 years of watching this sport, maybe even longer, is that you've got to have the quarterback to exceed even further. You can get by. Everyone can turn to that 2017 Eagles team. Everyone can turn to the Joe Flacco Ravens. And you can go even further back, Brad Johnson's Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Trent Dilfer's Baltimore Ravens. But the sport has changed. It's become a more offensive league. Bo Nix is good. He's good. But I don't – is he Matt Stafford? No. Is he Josh – no. Is he Drake? No. So, yeah, I'm selling that the Denver Broncos are the best team in the NFL. What say you, Stone Shield?
Yeah, very crafty you posing this question coming off of last night's game. I think if the Rams hang on and win that game, we all say, yeah, the Rams are the best team in professional football. And you might still say that despite the fact that they lost last night, blew a late, big-time fourth-quarter lead. I'm with you. I'm not ready to fully crown them as the best team in the National Football League here at this point. After their win last week against Green Bay, I'm definitely a little bit more bought into them than I was prior to that game. And don't look now. I hear what you're saying from Bo Nix, on Bo Nix. But the past couple of weeks, he's looked like a solid NFL quarterback. He's going out there making plays. They're scoring more plays offensively. And, I think they were winning in spite of Bo Nix for much of the year. And now I think he's kind of helping them along the winning process. So I've got my questions come playoff time if this team's going to be able to do it. But credit to Sean Payton. He's terrific. Their defense is terrific as well. And if Bo Nix can take care of the football, use his legs, take the easy plays when they're there, not try to force it down the field, they can beat anybody. But if they're facing off against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, albeit the better team on paper in the playoffs, are we really confident they're going to be able to take down a Josh Allen in the playoffs? Probably not. So I'm with you. They're real, right? They're not fraudulent, but I'm not ready to crown them as the best team in the NFL yet. They have the ability to win a Super Bowl, but I personally wouldn't be betting on them this year. Kind of feels like they're a year or two early at this point.
It's something you said there at the beginning where you go like, he's clearly an NFL quarterback, a starting. Let me nip that. Yes, he is. I don't think there's anybody with a brain that goes like, this guy sucks. Like, I don't think anyone's saying that. It's just when you start winning games in the capacity that the Broncos have done now in his first 2 years starting, you start putting yourself in that conversation of, is this one of the best quarterbacks in the league? And I think we all watching him go, yeah, there's some velo there. There's like some juice, but it's not consistent enough. It's not there to where you can say like, oh yeah, this dude is a top guy in the league. So let me put it this way. When it comes time at the end of his rookie contract and they're going to have to extend them, whatever that money is, to where you're looking like a Tua contract, like $58 million, I think that you'd be a little timid to give Bo Nix $60 million, $55 million in the way that all these NFL teams have done to Kyler Murray, to Tua, to Trevor Lawrence, to all those guys that you're like, is that a top guy in the league? So, yeah, you clearly can win on a rookie contract. Sean Payton puts you in a great position to win. They're one of the best teams in the league. No one can deny that. But are they the best team in the league? I'm selling that one. What's the next buy or sell?
All right, here we go. Can the Chicago Bears win the NFC North and make a deep playoff run? Buy or sell?
Can the Chicago Bears win the NFC North? See, here's what I'll say. To where I just poo-pooed on Bo Nix and Sean Payton. Sean Payton has obviously had a great postseason career. I mean, I know the Saints weren't always at the top of the NFC, but when they were, they were pretty formidable. And Bo Nix, he's not always there. Sometimes he's got that juice that you go like, okay, this guy is a top guy. Caleb Williams is in the similar boat as Bo Nix to where, like, there's really bad quarters and there's quarters where you watch him and you go, man, That dude's legit. More so than even Bo Nix. I do believe that the Chicago Bears, so I'll buy that they can, and I think they will win the NFC North. I think they can win the NFC North, and I think they will have a deep run. I think I pushed them in the NFC Championship just 2 days ago. So I'll continue to back that up because I believe in Ben Johnson. I believe in Caleb Williams. There's very few players, very few quarterbacks that wow me like Caleb Williams, and I'm in the business of being wowed. So I'll buy.
I think, winning the division, that's, they're probably the favorite at this point to win the division. I got no issue with buying them winning the NFC North, but making a deep playoff run, I'm going to sell that aspect of the question. I'm not there yet on Caleb. I hear you. The magnificent plays are there. The outside the pocket, extending, using his arm strength, using his mobility, that's all there. That's all great. But we all know if you want to have success in this league in the postseason, win championships, play that caliber of football, you got to be able to win from within the pocket, and he simply does not complete enough of his passes. Give a lot of credit to Ben Johnson. I think we all knew he was going to be a great play caller. That doesn't always translate to being a great head coach. Ben Johnson clearly is going to be a really good head coach for a long time, probably going to win Coach of the Year this year. And what he's done with this defense, too. They've improved their defense, and that says a lot about what Ben Johnson has done, even though that he's just, an offensive guy. So the Bears, their staff, their organization deserve a lot of credit. I think Caleb Williams is certainly reaping the benefits of working with Ben Johnson. We all saw what it looked like his first year when he didn't have Ben Johnson. But I'm just not ready to do that yet. I think there's other teams in the NFC that strike more fear into me than Caleb Williams does. But to your point, third down, if it's 3rd and 15, it's by no means, we're just going to check it down and then punt the football. He's got some ability to do some crazy stuff outside the pocket, but the consistency just isn't there for me. And I'll have to see playoff wins in order for me to believe it.
So let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Because I'll push back. Do you think Ben Johnson is in the elite tier of play callers in the league?
Yes.
Like same tier as Sean McVay, Andy Reid-esque, Kyle Shanahan?
I mean, yeah, in that tier. Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe that, say, a team like fully healthy, the 49ers with Brock Purdy, can make a run in the NFC?
I think they can make a run without being fully healthy.
Okay, so who do you think is a better quarterback, Caleb Williams or Brock Purdy?
Brock Purdy.
I disagree. I disagree. I just think that Caleb Williams has a lot more to offer right there. And I'll be wrong time and time again. So
I understand. A lot of people would agree with you there. That's not, more people would agree with you than me on that. But I would take Brock Purdy.
I guess what I'm saying is we've seen coaches that are in that elite playmaking tier. Kyle Shanahan has done it with several. Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy, to where they don't have that elite quarterback, but they're an elite play caller. And they've made deep runs. We've seen it with Sean McVay with Jared Goff. I think he's a really good quarterback, but even when he was there, they even saw like, hey, this isn't good enough to get us over the hump. They bring in Matt Stafford, they win. And I get that we only have 1 year of seeing Ben Johnson as a head coach. I just think that if they had a Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan or Sean Payton or whatever, you'd go like, yeah, this team can make a deep run because I've seen it before with this elite play caller. Even with the problems that Caleb Williams has shown, I just think that it's a combination of a rookie coach and a young quarterback that not a lot of people liked going into the league. People didn't like the personality there, and I think they're hanging that one over Caleb Williams' head far too often. I guess I'm a believer. I'm a believer in Caleb Williams. I'm a believer in Ben Johnson. I think that they are for real, and I think they will make a deep NFC run. Next one.
All right. Is Phillip Rivers' comeback saving or dooming the Colts season?
I don't think it's either. I don't think it's going to say. It's really fun. It's a cool story. And when I think about the Indianapolis Colts and what they have done over the last 6 years at the quarterback position since Andrew Luck retired, it is hilarious. I don't remember it. It was Jacoby Brissett, then Phillip Rivers, then Carson Wentz, then Matt Ryan, then Joe Flacco, then Anthony Richardson, then Daniel Jones, and back to Phillip Rivers. They cannot figure it out because they feel like they're always just on the precipice. They know they have a division that's winnable, so they continue to, instead of just plan for the future, and the one time they tried to plan for the future, they pick a 20-year-old quarterback that was booty cheeks at Anthony Richardson, and it's just a hilarious thing. I'm not going to buy. It's too far gone for the Colts. They have too tough of a road to save the season. He didn't doom the season. The injuries doomed the Colts season. But it is objectively funny on the outside looking in what the Colts have done for the last 6 years at that quarterback position. And it makes you wonder if they're going to, like, you can't hitch your wagon to Daniel Jones for a long-term outlook, regardless of how well he played this year before he got hurt. You just can't hitch your wagon to that for a long-term thing. Even if you get him like a Baker Mayfield $20 million a deal, then maybe, but like there's just clear limitations there. It's just a really it's honestly kind of funny from the outside looking in that they just keep spinning their tires in the mud. So neither, I'm not buying or selling that, but it is hilarious what the Colts have done over the last 6 years.
Totally agree. Neither. It's a fun story. I'm looking forward to it. I think he could have more success. Like, he was fine against Seattle. He was solid. That's about as good as you could hope for. I understand he didn't throw for 1,000,000 yards and have 1,000,000 touchdowns. I get that. But against that defense, who obviously didn't look great last night, but that's pretty impressive what he was able to do off the bench, and he's certainly a lot heavier than he was when he stepped off the field the last time he played several years ago. I think it just shows you how bad of a pick the Anthony Richardson pick was. I understand he's been hurt, but as far as I know right now, he could go out there and play, and they said, we actually would rather go with a 44-year-old Phillip Rivers who hasn't played in 5 years. So I don't think he's dooming them by any stretch of the imagination. I do think it'll be a competitive game against San Francisco. Great game on Monday Night Football, but the Colts started out so hot. They put all their chips in. They go out and trade for Sauce Gardner, give up 2 first-round picks. He gets hurt. Their quarterback has a fractured fibula, and then he pops his Achilles. He's going to be out for a really long time as well. I'm with you. You can't hit your wagon to Daniel Jones. Looked good for several weeks, but is he your long-term answer, especially coming off a serious injury? I don't think so. So it just shows you how important the position is in this league. The Colts have been a solid roster for a long time, but as you mentioned, they haven't figured out quarterback since Andrew Luck. It's been a really, really long time. So he's not dooming their season, but also he's not going to lead them to the playoffs either, especially with how hot Jacksonville and Houston have got.
Hey, by the way, I'm going to give us a pat on the back because we both killed the Sauce Gardner trade.
We did.
We both were like, what are they doing? And I think people in the chat were killing us for being so, because at the time they were 8-1. They looked like they could actually be a contender in the AFC, and to the chat's credit, they're like applauding the fact that the Colts were going for it. But you and I both said 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. Are you effing kidding me? That's a terrible trade. And as we've seen, he's hurt. Daniel Jones got hurt. The team completely went defunct. And that trade looks better and better for the Jets because the Colts draft pick keeps going up in the order. So it's just I'll give us credit for calling that one as we saw it. Next, buy or sell.
Micah Parsons' ACL tear. Are the Packers done as contenders?
Yeah. I think there's too much to overcome. And I like Jordan Love. He's having a great year. I like Matt LaFleur. I like the Packers. But I think that Micah is too dynamic of a player when you get in those tough games deep in the playoffs to overcome that kind of a loss. There's a reason that they went and got him because they felt like he made them Super Bowl contenders. If Jordan Love was Josh Allen or Matt Stafford or any of the cream of the crop quarterbacks in the league, I'd still say they have a shot, but I think Jordan Love hasn't shown to be that yet, so it's hard for me to think that he can overcome losing their best player on the roster. So, yeah, anytime you lose your best player on the roster, you're going to get knocked down a tier. And they were Super Bowl contenders when he was there. But with him, all the other injuries, yeah, I am how is it phrased? Yes, I'm buying that they are done as contenders. What say you, Stone?
I'm not buying that. I'm not out on the Packers yet. I still have some confidence in them. Jordan Love's still healthy, right? As long as you have your starting quarterback, you always have a chance. I'm high on Jordan Love. I agree he's not Stafford-esque or on that tier yet. I think he could potentially get there. He has gotten banged up, of course, throughout his career, and there's still that reckless nature to him playing quarterback as well. But they're getting a little bit healthier on offense. I understand Watson's dinged up, and he might miss some time, but you get Jaden Reed back. Musgrave, who isn't Tucker Kraft, but he's been playing well at the tight end spot for them. And let's understand that this Green Bay defense, led by Jeff Hafley, was a solid solid defense before they added Micah Parsons. He was kind of that joker that they played to make them a really great defense. They're still a solid defense without him. Rashawn Gary can still get after the passer. Those linebackers, Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker might be the best linebacking tandem in the National Football League. So I'm not out on them yet. You and I are both big LaFleur guys. People were talking about when the Packers were dropping some of those games to, Cleveland and Carolina, like, oh, he's on the hot seat. We're like, what are you talking about? And you and I both were like, if LaFleur was available, you get rid of Zac Taylor immediately and you do everything you can to get Matt LaFleur here in Cincinnati. I totally agree with that. Now, he's going to have an opportunity here to show how good of a coach he is, right? Because, again, this isn't your quarterback that went down. You can still win without your closer. No denying how great Micah Parsons is. I'm not completely done on them yet. Still have the quarterback, still have some pieces there on offense. Good head coach, good defense outside their best player. I'm not ready to quit on them at this moment.
Remind me not to play a game of pitch with you because you're talking cards there, like playing their joker and stuff like that, and you probably don't even know what pitch is. You're not a
correct.
You don't know. Euchre is.
I can't stand euchre, but I also don't fully understand it. But yeah.
Oh man, do you have a card game of choice, or are you not a cards guy?
Not a cards guy. I mean, I play poker.
Okay.
Not well, but
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
Blackjack's fun.
Blackjack is fun. Next one.
All right. Buccaneers versus Panthers. Who's taking the NFC South?
I don't think we're talking enough about the Carolina Panthers. Dave Canellis, who is on the cheaper end, like when he was hired, no one was like, man, this is going to be a home run hire or anything like that. I think the Panthers are going to win. They play each other twice in the next 3 weeks, so it will be determined who's going to take it. I get the Bucs have been there. Baker Mayfield, he's got to play better than he's been playing over the past month and a half, and he's showing once again why Baker Mayfield wasn't why the Browns were so eager, and that was a bad move by the Browns, but why they were eager to move off him because they weren't seeing consistent enough play from Baker Mayfield. There's a reason Baker Mayfield isn't making $50 million. It's because you're not seeing consistent enough. It works in Tampa Bay because he's able to take that contract. I think Dave Canellis is doing one of the best coaching jobs in the country. Obviously not on the par of Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson, McDonald. So, but I am thinking that the Panthers are going to take this. What say you? You're probably taking the Bucs if I had to guess.
Yeah, I'll take the Bucs just because I feel a little bit better about the people they have on offense. I don't think either coach really moves the needle for me. You got to give Canales some credit for winning in Carolina because that, for most of my life, has been the worst organization in the National Football League. I'll go with the Bucs just because of Baker. I was a Bryce Young guy when he came out, but, I mean, the size is just – I think you're going to stop seeing these smaller quarterbacks get taken so early, I think. He has good moments, but he has bad moments. Inconsistency certainly is there. We were all over the Bucs at the beginning of the year. They were beating everybody, and it was like, oh, my goodness, this team's awesome. They've gotten banged up. They've fallen off a little bit. But if you're making me pick between the two, I got to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we did get a Super Chat, and I know you want to read that now, reader.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm reloading the page. But we did get a $5 Super Chat from the Real Spirit Cat. He said she's going to kill me for saying this, but thoughts and prayers for Molly heart surgery this morning. I'm Facebook friends with Molly, and I saw this too. So prayers, if you guys have a moment today, take a moment and pray for Molly. Obviously someone who is here almost every single day. So we're thinking about you, Molly, and we're praying for you that everything goes well. Did you say that the Panthers were the worst run team in the NFL?
I said over the course of my life, definitely over the course of the past decade.
Over the past decade, I'll give you, but man, it's hard to put anyone other than the Browns up there.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean the Panthers in the last 20 years have made 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So I'm not putting them up there. It's been hot and cold, but if you went to,
I think the Tepper situation probably factored into that statement for me as well. Their owner.
Sure. Yeah. But if you win 2 conference championships in 20 years,
yeah,
it's better than what we're doing here in Cincinnati. There's no doubt about that.
Fair.
I think we can get one more in before we ask on Keegan.
Yes, I've not seen Keegan pop up yet, so we'll get one more in. And as you mentioned, thoughts and prayers to Molly. She's always here. One of the good ones. We got a lot of love for her and wishing her nothing but the best. All right. Do the Bills have the juice to win the AFC? Buy or sell?
Buy them. I'm buying. And it's not – I'm going to craft this question a little better. Do the Bills have the juice to win the AFC? Yeah, buying. But really, Josh Allen has the juice to win the AFC. I can't help but think that Josh Allen – if he's going to do it, The AFC's never been more open, and I know that there's flaws in that team. I know that there's flaws in with the Bills right now, but if they're going to do it, no Patrick, probably no Lamar, no Joe, might as well do it now. And there might be a whole new crop of quarterbacks between Bo Nix and Drake May, but if you're going to do it now. You're the best quarterback in the league. Yes, I'm buying that. That doesn't mean they will. I just truly believe that they do have the juice to win the AFC. We'll get back to a couple more buy or sells after we talk with my main man, Keegan Nickerson. Keegan, how's it going, brother? How are you on this lovely Friday morning?
Oh.
We're getting to you in a second. We'll sort through it. Stone Shields sending me through the right bus here.
I am. I can no longer hear him, so we'll come back to this.
All right. Well, we'll get you back in a second, Keegan. Keegan Nickerson, one of the best in the biz. So hopefully we'll figure that one out and get the right bus here. As one of the questions that I have for him, I've asked now Paul Fritzner from the Rebound Rundown yesterday. I asked. Me and Stone talked about it on Wednesday, this whole Jizzle James situation with the University of Cincinnati and really how this all plays out, because it's a really interesting case study into, a source of desperation, but they're clearly better, so you can understand it on one side, but we all know that if they were playing good football or good basketball right now, that they would not be making this move. And they're getting ready to take on, big boy basketball. Big boy basketball, which is in the Big 12. When they joined the Big 12, it was the best college basketball conference in the league, in the country. Maybe it's a little bit better. Stone, are we about ready?
Let's try it again, Reader.
All right, now we're welcoming on my main man, Keegan. Keegan, hopefully I can hear you. Hopefully you can hear me. How are you, my main man?
Technology needs to stop evolving, because I think it connected to my phone or something automatically. It was supposed to use a microphone for my phone, so it's stupid. So I'm having a great day now because I'm talking with my best friend, my best gym bro. So let's go.
It is always a delight when I get to see you in the gym. Normally you're an afternoon guy. I'm more of a morning guy, but it's always a delight to see you across the judgment-free zone of Planet Fitness. But let's talk about the University of Cincinnati Bear Kittens. I alluded to it just a few moments ago. I talked to Paul Fritzner from the Rebound Rundown yesterday. Jizzle James is back with the Cincinnati Bearcats. He played well Wednesday night. What is your take on this whole situation where he was dismissed from the team, welcome back, and they throw him in there? What is your take on the Jizzle James situation?
Yeah, I think it's really two things are true at the same time. When I first kind of announced the news, a lot of the reaction was, "Oh, Wes is desperate." Like it's a coach who's struggling. His team's 6-4, has one decent win over Dayton, and he's just looking for a spark. And to a point, that is true. I don't think if UC was 9-1 at that point that they would have brought him back. They probably would have just kept it rolling with how the season was going. But, when you talk to Wes after the game and he kind of says, hey, there was a reconciliation and assimilation process that he had to go through to get back with the team. Like, he had to apologize to everyone. He was initially told that he wasn't going to play this year, and then he still wanted to come back and be a Bearcat. He still wanted to be a part of the team. So it all kind of added up to make sense. A part of it is definitely Wes needs help. Like, he's got some injuries, and even the guys that are healthy aren't playing to the standard that they need to play to have a successful season. And I think Jizzle also wants to be able to help and kind of prove that he can be a contributor and that he's in good enough shape to be able to help.
Yeah, you nailed it on the head when you think, and I agree with this sentiment, that if they were 10-1, 9-1, I don't know how many games they played, but if they're playing really good basketball and in the same position that they were last year where they were ranked in the country, I think we both know that Jizzle James wouldn't be on this team. And Wes Miller can say he went through a reconciliation and assimilation project, but how much of this do you think is a Hail Mary to save this season and where it was headed?
Yeah, it's a big chunk of it. At some point, Wes doesn't have a choice. Like, at the end of the day, if he doesn't make the tournament, he's probably going to lose his job. I mean, when you look at the landscape of college basketball, not a lot of guys get 5 years with no tournaments and then they get brought back for a sixth. It's just how it's turned out. And you can't lose to Eastern Michigan at home. You can't lose to what is looking like a pretty below average Xavier team who just got beat by 40.
That's putting it kindly.
So, I'm not like Chad. I'm not trying to make everyone angry with how I talk about Xavier. I more just look at it unbiased and as much as I can. But I think that it was definitely a break glass in case of emergency kind of thing. Like he knew that he had this option that he's been practicing for the past 3 weeks. And in the past 3 weeks, it's been kind of the worst that Cincinnati has been since Wes Miller took over. So just see if it can work. And it's the perfect scenario of I can do this because he took the right steps and did the right things to be able to join the team. And he also said the players wanted it. So he talked to each player individually and they were all okay with it. And they thought that it was necessary. So it kind of works out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how a player can go around and be like, yeah, I don't want that guy on my team. I don't want him around. But let me ask you this, and I want to put a pin in the thing that you said about if he doesn't make the tournament. I want to get back to that in a second, but I want to stay on the Jizzle thing for one more second. Pretty clearly, they're a better team today than they were on Tuesday before he rejoined the team. How big of an impact truly is Jizzle James to this roster in this season?
Yeah, I think it gives them a 1-2 punch that a lot of teams in the Big 12 have. I mean, with him and Baba Miller specifically, I think those two guys have been the most consistent and reliable guys that Cincinnati's had this year. I mean, you look at Jizzle averaged 12.7 last year, and then I think in the back half of the season, he was averaging 16 points per game. He really turned it on and got going. So I think the biggest thing about him is how efficient he played. It didn't really look like he was forcing anything. It was very funny that the first shot that he took was a 19-foot miss on a long mid-range, a super low percentage shot, because that's kind of his forte is get those mid-range shots. But Baba Miller had one of the best stat lines that UC has seen with 26 points and 14 rebounds against Alabama State. And Wes Miller talked about it on his radio show last night. He had 8 dunks, which a lot of people haven't heard of for Cincinnati. And so much of that is a mindset thing. And they've tried to get him to get a more forceful mindset with how he plays offense and how he plays on both sides of the ball, especially with rebounding. So if Baba can continue playing the way that he can play and Jizzle can be Jizzle James that we've seen, it gives Cincinnati a chance. It gives them something to rely on. It gives them two guys who opposing defenses have to really, really worry about, which could possibly open up stuff that that other players can take advantage of, which I'm not going to say that they're going to go. I mean, how many Big 12? They played 20 Big 12 games.
Yep,
I'm not
20.
going to say that they're going to go 11-9, because if you look at KenPom right now with the percentage to win every game, they have a over 50% chance to win 6 games the rest of the year. So I'm not saying that it's going to flip on its head and they're just going to be a contender, but maybe they can sneak a couple games, get something rolling, pick up some wins they're not supposed to, especially if Jizzle and Baba are playing really well.
Unlike you, I can be biased when it comes to the teams here, and yeah, you're saying that they're going to need something to open up. That's an understatement of the year, and hopefully it does open up, because that offense is putrid to watch at times. And I'd say, all right, so you said that if they don't make the tournament, you believe that Wes is likely going to not be the head coach here in Cincinnati anymore. And your rationale for that was 5 years at Cincinnati. You got to make the tournament, especially playing in the Big 12, playing out of what I think most people would consider a basketball school. Do you think that's still a realistic bar that they can clear? You said, you mentioned it, KenPom has them winning about 6 games for the rest of the year. They're going to have to win 11 at the minimum, probably 10 or 11 games in the Big 12, and probably knock off a big dog in that process. Do you think that's a realistic goal for them this season to make the tournament? Okay.
At this point, no. Like, you lose to Eastern Michigan. You had a good first half against Louisville, and you don't look good because Baba Miller gets hurt. You go to Xavier and you play half decent and you're down 13 in the second half, and then they come back and take a lead, and you have no answer for Trey Carroll whatsoever.
Right.
And Trey Carroll's good. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
He's super
No doubt.
good. But he's not a guy who is like he's not Quincy Oliveri. Like Quincy Oliveri just buried a bunch of threes and scored like 60 points against you. So they should have had some kind of plan and take him away. I don't think Wes has ever had an offense inside the top 80 at Cincinnati in the country. And like, it's just, it doesn't make sense that they're going to take this team who has performed so poorly in the non-con. I mean, go watch that Georgia game. That was one of the worst performances I've seen a Wes Miller coach team have in the past 3 years. It doesn't make sense that this team's going to go in the Big 12 and automatically flip a switch. And I've seen teams like have really bad games. Indiana lost to Penn State my first year covering there, and then they go and make the tournament and win a game in the tournament. So you never really know, but I don't see it. I feel like he put a lot of stock in some younger, high ceiling guys that are going to take the next step, like Sean Abayev and Mustafa Cham. And offensively, you're just not seeing it. You were hoping Kerr Kriisa was going to be his 2023, 2024 self at West Virginia, and he's shooting under 30% from three. He went, I think, 1 for 9 against Alabama State with a lot of open shots. So it's not working out like Wes had planned. Now you have the issue of Sincere Harris has a back issue where he might miss a couple games. He played one segment and then didn't play. Jalen Haynes has his knee issue. Tyler McKinley has, I think it's a bone bruise in his knee, which is an issue. So he's got injuries and he's got guys that aren't playing up to the standard. I don't think making the tournament and winning 11 games in Big 12 play is realistic.
Fair enough. Let me ask you this. So I came up with this hypothesis, and it's because of what you just said there, where they have a really high ceiling. Because I do. They've got players that have the capabilities to play in the NBA, that are really talented, high-level guys if they could just play right. My hypothesis is thus. They play Houston twice. They play Iowa State at home. They play Kansas and Arizona. They'll play a lot of big dogs in the Big 12. Mm-hmm. And throughout their short run in the Big 12, outside of a win at BYU, they haven't really – and BYU ain't a big dog like Houston or Arizona is or Kansas is. My hypothesis is that I think that UC can knock off one of the big dogs this year. I think I agree with you. I don't think they're going to be winning 11 games in the Big 12. I don't think they're going to win 9 games. I think they're going to be pretty bad in the Big 12. But I think that sometime over the next few months, they will either go into Houston or be at Fifth Third and beat Houston, go into Allen Fieldhouse and knock off Kansas or something along those lines. Do you think they have the ability to knock off one of these big teams?
Yeah, they absolutely have the ability to do it because they have a lot of talent. But it's just exactly what you said about you don't think that they're going to win 11 games. It's because they don't have the talent or the experience or the scheming to go on those runs and win 5-6 games in a row. Maybe you catch AJ DeBanza or Darren Peterson on an off night. Maybe Taman Lipsey is having an off night. I don't know if you beat Houston just because Wes has never beat Houston. And I think that's kind of a mindset thing of we got to get off the schneid against these guys. It took them so long to beat Xavier. So I think that the most likely would probably be BYU or Kansas. I really can't wait for Baylor to come back to Fifth Third Arena and see the crowd boo Dan Scalings. I think that's going to be very, very funny. But Baylor isn't kind of up with the top dogs like you were talking about.
All right, so final question I'll ask you about this UC basketball team. Where can they see the biggest improvement going forward to where even if they don't make the tournament, they see legitimate improvement from this team and legitimate confidence in Wes Miller to where, like, all right, I can see him come back for another year. I can see him give him another ride at this. Where can they see that to be like, this team did get a lot better throughout the course of the year? Is that possible at all?
Without making the tournament, it would be very, very hard. The biggest thing that I would look for in like, hey, Wes is kind of coming along and he's figured it out a little bit. I would look at Sean Abayev and Mustafa Cham. two really, really young guys who have talent. They have the skill set, but they have to be developed into those guys who you think can play in the NBA. If those guys have really, really good Big 12 schedules and they're playing very good on both sides of the ball, Sham, especially on defense, I'm not expecting Sean Abayev to be a defensive stopper by any means. That's not his game at all. That's not why they recruited him. But if they can get really hot and be consistent, and you're thinking, oh, these guys could go to the NBA. And if those two do get hot, that means I think that they're probably winning 9 games in the Big 12. Maybe it's a financial thing to where you say, oh, we can hold on for another year and save $5 million on a buyout. But I just think especially what the football team is doing and how they're also disappointing, like John Cunningham at some point has to make a decision. And is he also on the chopping block? I think that's a question. You look at the hires he's made and it hasn't really panned out. So he's got to give some hope and he's got to show the fans, hey, we're moving in the right direction. I just don't think you can bring back a coach who goes 5 years without an NCAA tournament and try to say, hey, like we're going to figure it out. Like he's going to figure it out in year 6, especially when so much of this offseason was the team finally fits. Like the puzzle pieces fit together for the first time since I've been the coach. I don't know what else you could need, especially when you look at the money thing of, okay, it's pretty clear that basketball is getting a favorable amount compared to football. When you look at the rest of the schools in the country, it just doesn't make sense.
So let me ask you this. Give me a percentage in which you think that UC will have a new basketball coach next season.
75%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Because as you said if they don't make the tournament, you think he's gone, and you don't think they're going to make the tournament. The only thing is, never doubt Cincinnati sports and keeping around a guy to save a few bucks and everything like that. And the excuses have run out for Wes. So this is kind of the first few years. That was the first few years in the program. John Brandon didn't leave it in a good spot. Then you get, it's the first few years of the Big 12. But at this point, you've run out 5 years. You got to make it. It took Mick Cronin exactly 5 years to make the tournament. And from that point forward, he had it rolling. Keegan, thank you so much for hopping on here. I look forward to our next little date at Planet Fitness when I get to see you around. Once again, Keegan Nickerson on the Bearcats beat, baby. The best. The absolute best. Thanks, Keegan.
Yep, thanks.
That's interesting. He's in agreement with us that you don't see how it can go forward. You don't see how Wes Miller can continue to keep his job if they don't make the tournament. And if they make the tournament, I'll say this. If they do that, if they do exactly what we don't think is going to happen, which is win 11 games in the Big 12, make the NCAA tournament, knock off a few big dogs. If they do that, vibes will be incredibly high here in Cincinnati. Like they will be soaring through the roof to where like, all right, we're sorry for ever doubting you. We're sorry for ever thinking that you didn't have what it takes to get us into the tournament, but it's a long ways away. And they have a lot of opportunities to get some big time wins. It's gonna, and the Big 12 is tough. You play Houston twice. You play Iowa State. You play BYU at home. You play Arizona on the road. Arizona is currently number 1 in the country. You go to Allen Fieldhouse. Those are some tough games. I do believe that they'll knock off one of them, and we'll put a feather in the cap for this UC team. But yeah, I just don't see how you can lose to Xavier at Centos. And what do they do? 2 games later, Xavier loses by 40 to a 500 team, a floundering Creighton team, and you lose to EMU. It's just, we'll see. Maybe Jizzle James is that big of an impact player going forward. But Keegan Nickerson, Bearcat Journal, thank you so much for hopping on. Really do like Keegan.
Oh yeah.
Yep. All right, let's. I don't know if you had any parting thoughts about anything he said, or if you just want to dive right back into buy or sell.
I appreciate his honesty, right? He was like, yeah, 5 years, you haven't made the tournament. He's saying it how it is. I respect the heck out of that. Keegan does a tremendous job covering the football team and the basketball team, and he's totally right. They got to show some signs of improvement. Wes has got to show that he can coach these guys. Like Sean Abayev and Mustafa Cham, the talent is there. They are talented players. How can he turn them into productive players as well? And, they've got some time here to get things fixed, but it's only going to get more difficult when you take a look at their schedule.
And I know Mouse Cop, who's got his ear to the floor on college basketball, was getting on my case for saying BYU is not a big dog. They're top 10 in the country right now, and I get all that, but I don't think I'm pulling too. I mean, they made one Sweet 16 in 15 years. Like, I don't think that's I know they're good this year. I know they're great. I know they went to the Sweet 16 literally last year, but like one Sweet 16 in 15 years, top 10 in the country. I get you're a great team and everything like that, but let me put it this way: you're not shaking in your boots when you go to Utah, Brigham Young University, in the same way that you do when you go to Allen Fieldhouse or Houston or Arizona or some of these other stops in the Big 12. They're a great team and they might have a fantastic year, but I don't put them in that same category as those guys with a little more history, have a little more done a little more winning over the last 5, 10, 15 years than Brigham Young University. All right, let's get back into the buy or sell.
All right, here we go. Which AFC North team is best set up for the future? And Reader, I'm going to need you to go 2 minutes on this. You got it.
2 minutes on this. This is a really interesting conversation because you think about it. Which AFC North team is best set up for the future? Because I think we all look at the Steelers. They're old. They've been, I know they go 500 every single year. They're going to probably win the AFC North again, but Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old. TJ Watt's not getting younger. Like, Jalen Ramsey's old. Like, they're an old team. Yeah, they might be okay this year. They might be good next, but like you're looking 3 years in advance. Like, I don't see what their future looks like. It doesn't look bright. Let me put it that way, to where they probably are going to be middling for the next few years. You look at the Browns, and the Browns, listen, don't kill me for saying this. The Browns have a pretty decent roster. I know they're going to win 3 games, but like between Myles Garrett, who looks like the best defensive player that we've seen in the NFL in the last 20 years, and their offensive line and certain pieces of their team, like they're not terribly far away to where like if they get a decent quarterback and someone to throw to, like they could win. They could get back into that double-digit win territory by next season. Do I think they're going to do that? No, because it's the Cleveland Browns. So it's not them. So the question is as sad as we feel here in Cincinnati, are sneakily the Bengals not too far away from squinting your eyes and going like, yeah, they might have a decent view, because they do have Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow signed up long-term. They do have T. Higgins signed up long-term. The Ravens have Lamar, but Lamar looks to be incredibly rescinding as a talent. The answer, in short, is probably the Ravens, who has the brightest future, because Lamar is 27 years old. He's a multiple-time MVP. They've got a lot of pieces there. They're a really well-run organization. John Harbaugh, you feel a lot more confident than Zac Taylor leading the charge. But I'm talking crap here, but everyone in the AFC doesn't have a bright future at this point. Maybe the Ravens have the brightest, but you don't have to squint too far to go like, man, if they could just figure out linebacker and safety, the Bengals might be good again. They might be good again. So the answer, in short, is nobody has a bright future, but if you had me to peg one, it's probably the Ravens. The Bengals sneakily have the second best future. What say you?
Yeah, I definitely think it's the Ravens, unfortunately, but I do think the Bengals are set up better than the Steelers right now. And I agree. Like, get a couple of guys on that defense, and we're probably saying, it's the Bengals. But, right now, I definitely would take Joe Burrow over Lamar Jackson, even with the injuries, because Lamar's hurt too. It's funny. Like, I understand Joe misses more time, and typically he's out for the year, and it was kind of wild that he came back this year. But Lamar gets hurt all the time as well. And right now, he's healthy enough to be playing. But he doesn't look like Lamar Jackson out there. He doesn't look like a top 5 quarterback out there right now. So, organizationally, I think the Ravens are one of the best well-oiled machines in football, top to bottom, ownership, GM, head coach.
They've been good for a long time for a reason.
Yes, and they're just a well-respected organization too. So, I'd say they're probably set up a little bit better than Cincinnati. But, yeah, I don't think Pittsburgh's in a good spot at all, despite the fact that they might win this division and maybe win a playoff game, but probably not.
It really depends on how far your outlook looks. Like, if you say set up for the future, are you talking next year? Because if you're talking next year, I might put the Steelers up at number 1. Like, I might put them at number 1 for next year. You have to convince me on it. But then your outlook goes, okay, that's 1 year. What about 3 years? Well, certainly the Steelers aren't up there. To where all of a sudden the Browns look a little more attractive. Like, what happens if they figure out quarterback? What happens if Shadur Sanders, settles into being a top 10 quarterback in the league? He ain't. But what happens if that happens? To where, like, they're not too far away. So it really just depends on how big of a scope you're looking when you say future. You look at next year, 3 years, 5 years, because I'll tell you right now, the way that Lamar Jackson's trending, he's a year younger, maybe even 2 years younger than Joe Burrow. I will take 5 years of Joe. Like, Lamar's won 2 MVPs. He's been one of the best players in this league for a while. He's not going to age like Joe Burrow's going to age, brother. I'm just telling you that. Like, Joe gets hurt all the time. So does Lamar. He ain't just that play style. You take the accurate pocket passer over a guy that runs around any day of the week. So I don't think you're too far away from saying that the Bengals have the brightest outlook. Although I will admit, no one's got that bright of an outlook here in the AFC North. There's a reason that it's one of the worst divisions in football this year. Next one.
At least we're not the Browns, right, Reader?
Correct.
All right. Are the San Francisco 49ers the scariest wild card lurking team nobody's ready for?
I will sneakily buy this because I think when we talk about all these teams in the NFL, rightfully so, you're not – the Seahawks, 12-3. The Rams look like one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league. The Bears are – everyone's taking attention away from what the 49ers are doing. I don't understand why every single year they have 36 injuries. It's probably because they're old. But what Robert Saleh's doing on that defensive side, which, by the way, if the Bengals fire Zac Taylor, Robert Saleh is a name on the list that I'd want to go higher. But that's between us. Just between us.
Better than Brian Flores.
It is. I just think there's too much attention tracking elsewhere. So I will buy this. No one's talking about the 49ers. But I don't think it would surprise. Like, if they're playing in the NFC Championship game, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise you guys. Like, we can talk about, like, oh, what are some other wild card teams? What happens if you looking at? I'm going to the AFC. Like Jacksonville playing for the AFC Championship game. That'd surprise a lot of people. They might win the division. They won't be a wild card team. But like the Chargers playing in the AFC Championship game, that would surprise a lot of people just based off their injuries. It wouldn't surprise me if the 49ers make it. Let's say you, Stone.
Yeah. I've been on this for a few weeks. I think what Shanahan's been able to do with all the injuries is incredible. Again, Ben Johnson, maybe Vrabel, probably coach of the year, but I think Shanahan should get some votes, and I might give my vote to Shanahan if I had a vote, to be completely honest with you. I think the job he's done is tremendous, winning with a guy that was perceived to be a bust. Backup quarterback, Mac Jones. Defense, you got two. Fred Warner's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's out, right? Bosa, is he going to be a Hall of Famer? I don't know, but he's a really good player. He's out, right? And he's been able to win without both those guys. That's huge. I said yesterday, and I stand by this despite what happened last night, if I'm a team in the NFC, I would rather play Seattle than San Francisco. I really would. I would take San Francisco as the second scariest team in that division behind the Rams. I understand the Seattle just beat the Rams, and they had a huge win last night, and they're in the driver's seat for the 1 seed. But I kind of view them as the third most dangerous team in the NFC West. So, yeah, the Niners are dangerous. They haven't locked a playoff spot yet. They could very well, they lose to Grandpa Phillip, and then maybe they don't make the playoffs. But where things are trending right now, Purdy's starting to play good football. I don't want to play them, and I think they're scary.
Fair enough. I think we got one more, and then we'll hop out of here because I know you got an interview right at the top of the show.
Trevor Lawrence is a top 10 quarterback.
All right, hear me out.
Hear
me out here. I'll back Caleb Williams and I'll back Trevor Lawrence as long as I possibly can. Although I am probably going to sell this because I'm just thinking this. I'm doing this live. I'm doing this like literally. Let's count them out. Like quarterbacks that I'd rather have. I'd rather have Patrick Mahomes. I'd rather have Josh Allen. I'd rather have Joe Burrow. I'd rather have Justin Herbert. I'd rather have Jalen. No, I don't know if I'd rather have Jalen Hurts. Don't know if I'd rather have Jalen. I'd rather have Matt Stafford. I'd rather have. I've got a list right here. I'd rather have Jordan Love. I'd rather have Caleb Williams. I don't know if I said that. I'd rather have Drake May. But he's in that list right there, baby. He's in that list of like that next tier. Would you rather have Dakota Prescott? Would you rather have Jalen Hurts? I don't know if I said Lamar Jackson. I'd still rather have Lamar Jackson. Would you rather have C.J. Stroud? He's right there. Just hear me out. He's right there. And with Liam Cohen, they're winning a lot of games. Don't be surprised if Trevor Lawrence turns into that elite playmaker that we always thought that he was going to be, or at least that he was labeled as. And I know it's not the end-all be-all. He's only a year older than Bo Nix. He's like 300 days older than Bo Nix, like almost not even a year. So he's still young, 26 years old. I wish he was it feels like he's not that committed to football. But I'm not there. I'm selling. But I'm giving myself the opportunity to buy in the future. I assume you're selling this.
I was always a huge Trevor Lawrence guy, dating back to his days at Cartersville High School. He was the number 1 recruit, went to Clemson. Of course, wasn't the starter right away. It was Kelly Bryant. Then he took over for him, won the national championship, beat the crud out of a really, really good Alabama team. So I've been a Trevor Lawrence fan forever, consensus number 1 overall pick. And it's Jacksonville. We talk about dumpster fire of organizations, the Browns, the Jets, the Panthers. You know the Jaguars in there as well. And it looks like they finally have something here with the head coach, Liam Cohen. Everybody talking about Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel. The job Liam Cohen's doing down in Jacksonville is incredible. And he deserves a lot of love for that. And there's finally some stability here with Lawrence. I'm with you. You question his love for the game a little bit at times. You question his decision-making. He's a little bit reckless, sometimes not as accurate as you would like with the football. I have to sell it for now.
Fair
but
enough.
Don't be surprised if they go in and win a playoff game this year, and then we're back to talking about, oh, you know what, Trevor Lawrence, he's got some weapons. They just re-signed a receiver. He's got a coach that's competent. He could be a force to be reckoned with in the AFC.
Thank you for backing me up there.
Yeah.
Thank you for backing me up here. And this final thing, because I got to hop off the show because you have a guest on here in a few minutes. It is Friday. Everyone have a great weekend. But let us remember that Stone Shields killed me for saying that I don't want Joe Burrow to play because I don't want him to get injured. And this week he said, yeah, you got to play Joe Burrow, except for that final game. We don't need him to get injured there. There's nothing to play there. As if I had been saying that for 5 weeks now, like, hey, there's nothing to play for. Let's not get our fragile quarterback injured in games that don't mean anything. But he's like, no, he's got to play. You absolutely got to play, except for that last game, because that last game doesn't mean anything. Unlike the 5 games he played before that also didn't mean anything. That last game doesn't mean anything. Sit him there. He might get hurt. They're playing a good defense. He might get hurt every single freaking game. He's on the injury report this week. I just had to get that off my chest. I think that's an absolutely ludicrous take. The only reason that he made that take is because there was a precedent set that you can sit guys in the final week. Let's set the precedent ourselves. Like, hey, I don't want our franchise quarterback to get hurt. See you guys on Monday. Stone Shield Show coming right up.
All right, here we go. Welcome into the Stone Shield Show. My name is Stone Shields. We are here. We are live. It is Friday, December 19th. Lots of stuff I want to discuss on today's show. Got a great show played out for you guys here at this point. We're going to talk Bengals and Dolphins. Got to preview that game. No Tua. Quinn Ewers gets the start. First career start for him. We're going to spend time talking about that. We're going to dissect some of the comments that Joe Burrow and Zac Taylor continue to make over the course of these past few weeks. And Joe Danneman is standing by. We're going to get to him in a matter of moments from Fox 19. Really looking forward to having a conversation with him. Also, college football playoff. That starts tonight. Alabama and Oklahoma, and a couple of good games tomorrow there as well. Plenty of good NFL games this weekend. A couple of Saturday games. Saturday night, Bears and Packers. We'll spend some time talking about that as well. And as always, on a Friday. We will round out our show with our best bets of the weekend. But it is now time to welcome in our guest. He is here. He is standing by, and he is ready to go. And his name is Joe Danneman, and he is the sports director over at Fox 19 now. Joe, how's it going? Thanks for making some time for us here on a Friday.
You're very welcome. Happy early holidays. Merry Christmas as we get ready here for the holiday season. And I'm curious to ask you a question because I want your advice on something, okay?
All right.
So I'm trying to come up with last-minute gifts for my children. I have 2 teenagers and an 11-year-old. They're big Bengals fans.
Okay.
Is getting them tickets to the Arizona Cardinals game a good gift? In a season that's not going to the playoffs, a team that's playing out the string, it could be cold, but is that a good gift for a dad to his son, for at least one of my kids who's never been to a Bengals game?
How much do they love Joe Burrow is my question before I answer that.
Well, of course, he's their favorite player.
Okay.
And as of now, we expect Joe Burrow to play. So they get a chance to see Joe Burrow. I think that's the answer, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I would still get the tickets. I think that's a good idea. I went to the game last week against Baltimore, and that was kind of my rationale, right? Joe Burrow finally returning home, playing. The Bengals are cooked, and they're kind of a mess, but I get to see Joe Burrow play Lamar Jackson, so I showed up and braved the elements in the game. So I totally think that would be a great gift to let your kids go watch Joe Burrow.
Yeah, and I did get my 2 older ones tickets to the Thursday night game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, to which a clip of that came on TV last night when we were watching Thursday Night Football, and my kids said, "Hey, Dad, at least we got to see the best game of the year at Paycor Stadium." I said, "You know what? I feel like the dad of the year now. The fact that kids got to see Joe Flacco beat Aaron Rodgers on Thursday Night Football. So 1 for me."
That was a heck of a game. Absolutely no doubt about it. But let's dive in here, Joe. Appreciate you making some time for us here on a Friday. And unfortunately, we can't sit here and talk about the postseason and the playoffs right now. And we're left dissecting these press conferences from Joe Burrow and, of course, Zac Taylor. Let's go back in time a little bit to last week when Joe Burrow was questioning, the fun he was having and trying to find the fun again. And the national media took it and ran with it. And it kind of spread like wildfire all over the media. What was kind of your immediate reaction to that, hearing those comments last week from Joe?
My immediate takeaway from that is baked in understanding what Joe Burrow press conferences are about. And although this one felt unique, although his mood felt different, and although national media are trying to connect the dots and try to take this somewhere where it's really not supposed to go, I've always said Joe Burrow is a master of messaging and is always very thoughtful in what he's saying, very intentional with what he's saying. And sometimes it's up to us to try to connect the dots on what he's actually saying and the message he's trying to get across. But I thought everything he was doing was establishing a mood and a tone. And I think the message was that change is needed, even if change doesn't come in the kind of change that the fan base might want. Look, we all understand that a lot of the fan base wants to change at head coach or anywhere on the coaching staff. They might want to change in the front office, specifically with Duke Tobin. But if those things aren't to happen, and as we sit here on December 19th, it doesn't feel like those things are going to happen, there still needs to be change. You can't have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and not make the playoffs 3 years in a row. Now, there are circumstances that made that happen, especially the quarterback injury in 2 of those 3 years. But even going back to last year when Joe played at MVP level, they didn't make the playoffs. So something has to change in the process of how the Bengals are building this roster to be able to compete. And I think Joe was landing another message like he typically does, that he's not happy with where things are right now. And I don't think Joe wants out of Cincinnati. Joe's certainly not going to Andrew Luck this thing.
Yeah.
So I think what he's trying to say is this team needs to be more aggressive in free agency. If they want to build a roster that's going to compete next year, you can't just have the model of, okay, we'll build through the draft. They tried that last year defensively, using 5 of their 6 draft picks on defense, and look where it got them. I think the defense might be even worse than it was last year if you look at it on the year as a whole. So I think that was Joe's message. The tone maybe was a little bit unique because it just seemed like the guy was up there depressed.
Yeah.
And we really haven't seen that from him. And maybe it did lead him to play the way he did on Sunday. It kind of maybe set a tone for the whole team. But if we all believe that Joe is a master of messaging, I think his message was sent starting last week and then doubled down this week.
You alluded to this a little bit, but Joe obviously is frustrated with losing. Just how frustrated do you think he is with the organization? Because obviously a lot of people nationally are saying that too. The Bengals organization kind of gets dragged through the mud, and a lot of it, of course, they deserve. But when you take a look at some of the things he's asked them to do, oftentimes they grant his requests, dating back all the way to his second year, drafting Jamar Chase, right? Paying Jamar Chase, paying T. Higgins, Mike Gesicki, getting something done with Trey Hendrickson so he can come back and play football this year. Obviously, he got hurt, and it didn't end up really working out that way. But how frustrated do you think he is with the organization specifically, or is it just generally just losing that has him so frustrated?
That's, again, one of those things that we're going to have to try to piece together. I will say this. He was asked this week about the idea of would he like to be involved in the conversations of the futures of head coaches, maybe free agents. He alluded to the fact that he likes to stay plugged in, but doesn't necessarily feel like he should be involved in the process of making those decisions. And I think that was an important line for him to draw, because we always wondered, how involved is Joe in the idea of the Bengals giving T. Higgins money, the Bengals bringing back Trey Hendrickson? Did he ask for his input to be heard? It doesn't feel like he really wants to be a part of that kind of decision making. I think he makes his statements on roster construction in his own way, starting back last year on Monday Night Football in Dallas, when he really surprised all of us and said that the T. Higgins thing needs to happen. And certainly Joe got his way. But I think he put a line in the sand this week that he wants to be kept up to date on these kinds of decisions, but doesn't necessarily feel like he needs to be in a room where his input is heard. He can kind of make those statements in the way he does. He typically does that sitting at a podium at Paycor Stadium on Wednesdays when he does that. And I think that's important for the team to understand as well. I don't think Joe and the national media, if you go on everywhere, I've been frustrated this week of people who are outside of the city trying to connect the dots. And,
no doubt.
And Joe said that he understands people have to do that with some of the things he says because it can come across as cryptic. I don't think Joe is necessarily frustrated with the organization as a whole. I've always said I believe Joe Burrow is very hyper aware of what his resume is going to need to look like in 7 to 8 years when he's in his later 30s and he's trying to hang around like an Aaron Rodgers or a Peyton Manning. And he knows what boxes he has to check to be considered one of the all-time best. And I believe if you can get Cincinnati to the mountaintop, that counts as much or more than any resume that any other quarterback can put out there. And I think that's in the back of his mind. I believe that he thinks, listen, if I can do this in Cincinnati, if I can take the Bengals to a Super Bowl win, that is as big of a check mark on any resume as any quarterback has ever had, because they've never done it. And so many people say they can't do it because of the front office, the ownership group, the small scouting department, the family-run business. So many people say the Bengals can't do things. Joe Burrow believes, hey, if I can do this with this team, people are going to look back at my career and say I was one of the greatest to ever do it because I did something people said could not be done. I believe, from listening to his press conferences now for 5 years, that is a very, very big part of his motivation, is to do it here in Cincinnati. So I don't believe Joe has reached a point, Stone, in the idea that he's frustrated with the organization, that he would want out. Certainly he wants change. Mm-hmm. Everybody listening to this who likes the Bengals wants change. They're probably not going to get the change they want, but I think Joe is laying the groundwork for an idea that they have to attack this differently in the offseason. And he wants to be a part of the solution. And I think that's important for everybody to remember. He wants to be a part of the solution, but to get to the ultimate solution for this team, and that is getting back to a Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl, things have to change.
Short term, it certainly seems like he's very committed to here in Cincinnati. Paul Dehner Jr. asked him at the press conference, is there a world where you don't see yourself as the Bengals quarterback in 2026? He put an end to that, and he's like, no, I can't see that happening. And then Paul followed that up by saying, well, is there a world where you could see you playing quarterback for a different team at some point in your career? And he said, you think about a lot of things. As it relates to that, do you think there is a world where he doesn't sign another contract with this team regardless of how much success he has over the course of the next few years into 2029, which is the last year he's technically under contract?
Also in that press conference, Stone, he talked about Tom Brady, he talked about Drew Brees, he talked about Peyton Manning, guys that I'm sure when they were 29 years old never thought they were leaving the team they were playing for.
Yeah.
And the fans in that city never thought those players would ever leave the city that they're playing for. And ultimately, it happens. It happens to almost every quarterback. That there are no guys anymore who just play 20, 25 years with the same team. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is another example of someone who right now everybody thought he would play in Green Bay his entire career, and he's not going to do that. And so I think Joe understands that, and that's also in the back of his mind that, listen, after playing in a city for 15 years, at some point when you're in your later 30s, maybe you move on. And maybe that's not necessarily answer your question about a second contract, because that will come well before he reaches the late stages of his NFL career. I don't know. I think it's also important for Joe in those press conferences, if he's trying to convey a message of at least keeping a little bit of doubt. And by keeping a little bit of doubt, you're putting a little bit of pressure on the organization to keep you happy. And if you want to be kept happy and you have the idea that change must be made, well, then they better make some changes to keep the quarterback happy, because that's been job number one for the front office, and even trickling down to Zac Taylor in his position as head coach, in his position as the voice of the organization, is keeping Joe as happy as he can so Joe Burrow stays around for another contract. But if I'm Joe, I'm not guaranteeing that I'm staying past this contract just because I want to keep pressure on the organization. And right now, pressure on the organization is paramount, not just for the fans and putting up billboards around Cincinnati. Right. It's also for the quarterback to get in front of a microphone and say, listen, 3 straight years without going to the playoffs is unacceptable. We all get that, but somebody's got to talk about it and rip the Band-Aid off and do this publicly, and Joe Burrow did it. So if he's not going to sit here and say, oh, yeah, absolutely, I guarantee I'm going to be a Bengal for the next 10 years. You can't do that if you want to keep pressure on the organization. So while Joe, yes, I think it was important for him to at least come out and just say, yeah, I'm going to be here next year, just to calm everybody just a little bit, because the national narrative have just got wildly out of control. But I think it was important for him, too, to keep pressure on the organization by saying, it's not guaranteed that I'm going to be here for 10 more years and sign another contract in Cincinnati. I have to see what it looks like, what changes you guys make. Are you guys willing to do everything that I've done? I've given ligaments to this organization, literally multiple ligaments, and come back and work so hard to be back and try to give this team another shot here at the end of the season. It didn't work out, but Joe wants to be met with the same kind of maniacal desire to win, and he's put the organization on notice that they have to meet his demands of what it takes to win. And I think it's important for him not to guarantee that he's going to be here 10 years and sign another contract, just to keep pressure on the organization.
One more doom and gloom question here before I try to spin this a little bit more in a positive light. But you mentioned the billboard, right? Fire Zach, fire Duke, save Burrow. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, it's got to be AI, right? I hardly believe anything I see on the internet these days because of the world we live in. But nope, turns out it is real. What was just your reaction to that digital billboard going up?
My reaction is this Bengals season needs to end, because Bengals fans, players, coaches need a break from each other at this point, right? Yep. Going on 3 years of this, the frustration of them not getting where everybody expects them to go, and that's baked into what we're experiencing right now, is the expectations are so high, and they should be with what the Bengals have offensively. And the expectation was, okay, the Bengals invested so much in change. They changed the defensive coordinator. They spent 5 of their 6 draft picks on defensive players. They brought in a couple of free agents defensively that maybe didn't move the needle. We understand. And maybe that's the change that we're kind of connecting the dots here with Joe Burrow, that he wants those defensive changes to come from guys who have proven they can play and be difference makers in this league. But the expectation was this was not supposed to happen again. And if it didn't happen, the expectation was, okay, people are going to be fired. Changes are going to be made. And now here we are with 3 weeks to go in the season, December 19th. I think most of us think that big changes aren't going to happen, so people are frustrated. I mean, you throw all of that into one big bowl and stir it up, and you're getting a fan base right now who is buying billboards to try to make change happen here in Cincinnati. I can tell you that that's not going to move the needle with
Right.
Mike Brown and the family. It just doesn't. It's been that way ever since he took over the franchise. He just doesn't get moved by what people outside of the building think. Sometimes that's good. Other times it frustrates the heck out of the fan base. So my takeaway is, boy, these last 3 games just need to happen. The players need to go away for a while. The coaches need to go away for a while. The fans need to just clear the air and be done with this and reset this thing and see if this team can make the kind of change that Joe Burrow is putting pressure on them to make.
Joe Danneman, Fox 19, joining us live here on the show for a couple more minutes. I do want to talk about this because when Jamar Chase and T. Higgins were paid, the Bengals officially said, all right, this is our identity going forward. We got our quarterback. We got his 2 weapons. We're going to score a lot of points, and that's going to be how we win. There was a lot of people that pushed back on that, said, I don't know, can you pay 2 weapons and the quarterback at the same time and have success? And I was like, yeah, you've done it in the past. I think this is the right thing to do. Year 1 of all those guys getting paid doesn't work out, but of course Joe didn't play much of the year. Do you still have confidence that that can be this team's identity and it can equate to winning championships and winning postseason games?
So I've waffled on this one. I'll admit that when the idea came up to pay T, I didn't like it from an idea of roster construction, considering how much of a dead weight the defense was, and understanding that the Trey Hendrickson decision would come to a head the way it did. I couldn't predict that the Bengals would whiff the way they did in the draft defensively. And there's still time, right? Shamar Stewart might turn out to be a good pro. And Demetrius Knight might turn out to be a good pro. I have a lot of questions about Barrett Carter and his ability on the field when the ball is snapped. But I do think he's made strides in pre-snap judgment, and his eye discipline, I think, has gotten better. But just his ability certainly has to be questioned. Going forward, it's what they are, Stone. I mean, we can sit here and debate whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing, but I think when I say I waffled, I also say at the same time what makes the Bengals dangerous is the fact that it's Joe, Jamar, and T. And that big 3, every single time they show up on a field, it puts fear into the opponent. It's why last year we sat here the final 2 or 3 weeks and said, man, if the Bengals just get in the tournament, no one wants to play the Bengals because of those guys. And you've seen it in big moments. I go back to last year when the Bengals beat the Broncos near the end of the season in overtime, and you saw just how much value T added to this team. You saw it in Buffalo. The Bengals went head-to-head with I believe, will-be playoff team, and for 55 minutes outplayed them because they had the big 3. And we know what Joe and Jamar are about. And then you see what T brings to the table in that game. Whether or not he shouldn't have finished the game for the helmet hits he took can be discussed in a different way. But when he was on the field making plays, you saw how dangerous those 3 are. The hard part of the roster construction of those 3 together and paying the quarterback and 2 weapons is it puts so much pressure on Duke Tobin to get it right in the draft. Right. And he hasn't gotten it right in the draft enough. You see what Duke Tobin did in 2021 when he has free agent money. He cooked defensively. He put together a championship defense. And I would argue, if you go back and watch that year, it was the defense that ultimately carried the Bengals to the Super Bowl by the plays they made in the playoffs. So that's a long way and a roundabout way of saying, well, here they are. They are what they are now. All 3 are paid, and now the pressure is only that much more heightened on Duke Tobin to get it right in the draft. And maybe, depending on the decision they make with Trey Hendrickson, using that money to get difference makers immediately on defense. This cannot be done just in the draft. We've seen it. The Bengals have had that opportunity. They haven't executed on it. Now it's time to not only spend a lot of draft capital on defense, but they have to find instant difference makers on defense for the fan base to take this team seriously in 2026.
Any guys that you think you can build around on defense? Because I think a lot of us was like, well, let's get 11 new guys in there, but that's not really realistic, right? DJ Turner, of course, having a good year. I think he's an extension candidate potentially this offseason. Zach said at his press conference, views him as a Pro Bowler at this point. Any guys that you feel decent about being starters next year that you can kind of build around?
I think that's what's important here about the final few weeks, and it's what's been important about the second half of the season. It's finding the guys, that you think you can use next year and can be contributors, and also finding the guys that, okay, we need to move on from those players. And I think the Bengals have gotten a good look at that. And that's why I think it's important for a guy like Shamar Stewart here, the final few weeks, to get back on the field. And there's been the big debate about should Joe Burrow come back and play, and Joe's going to play. But there's also a smaller debate about Shamar Stewart, a rookie that hasn't had a lot of football, who's missed several weeks in a row. Should he come back and play? Yeah. He needs to come back and play because the Bengals need to start to find out what they have in their first-round pick. Certainly, Myles Murphy has had moments this year. Myles Murphy now is a guy I think that you can count on to be a contributor. He was drafted in the first round to be more than a contributor. He was drafted to be a difference maker. I don't know if his ceiling is that of a difference maker. Joseph Osai is another guy they're going to have to make a big decision on here in this offseason. Has he shown enough this season that you bring him back as a possible contributor to this team? I do think Demetrius Knight has a chance to be a starter. Again, another guy that was probably drafted to be a difference maker. I don't know if he's going to be a difference maker, but he did have the 2 sacks of Lamar Jackson. He did have the big play on Thanksgiving night. He has been little better. Take away the Bills game, and certainly the 3rd and 15 was not a great moment for the Bengals linebackers, and then you go into the secondary, and certainly DJ Turner's a guy you can rely on. But outside of that, I think you've made a lot of decisions on the other guys. So that's again, they invested so much in change on defense, and the return on that investment has been minimal. But at least it's a reality check of what they have to get fixed, who they believe can be contributors, and who they believe they need to move on from, because I think right now that's just as valuable as finding guys that can be good players and can be starters, or guys that, okay, we've seen enough, right? And let's start with the safety position, right? We've seen enough of Geno Stone. We need to move on and find somebody else to play that position and not run it back next year.
2 more for you, Joe, before we let you go. Real quickly, just from an injury perspective, I know Osai, BJ, and Jenkins didn't practice yesterday. Are we expecting them to be out on Sunday?
I would think so at this point. I think the big one we're all wondering about is T. Higgins, and Zach will speak a little bit later today in trying to decide what to do with him. I'm of one that after watching Joe here the last week and a half in his press conferences, I was looking so much towards Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, uplifting him, because we talk so much about the quarterback having to elevate everybody around him. Mm-hmm. For once, I feel like Joe needs guys, and Jamar talked about this, to uplift him, to elevate him. And I thought this would be a Jamar and T game in Miami. The problem is I have hard feelings inside about putting T out there right now. After seeing what he's gone through the last few weeks, I would sit him another week. He might be a candidate to just put on ice for the rest of the season. With the concussion stuff, these aren't exhibition games. NFL players will talk to you all the time about the fundamental core of their competitive spirit is winning, even when seasons are over, playoffs are done. These guys want to win games. Guys are trying to secure futures both on the field and the coaching staff. But at the same time, T. Higgins' value is too high for this team to take any chances with him. So I'm curious to see what they'll do with him this week and the final weeks, considering that he's been in concussion protocol now, 3 of the last 4 weeks? Yeah. And the 2 hits he took in Buffalo were pretty striking, and he finished the game. So that, to me, is the one I'm most curious of, to see what happens this Sunday.
And lastly, Joe, I was a guy banging the table. When Burrow's ready to go, you bring him back and you play him, regardless of where you're at as far as the postseason. I would probably think about sitting him down for the last game. I know that might be, kind of go against wanting him to play. But what are your thoughts on that? I know Zach said that he plans on Joe playing the remainder of the year, but do you think there's a world where he doesn't play against Cleveland? I know, of course, that's always a violent game against the Browns, and you got Myles Garrett over there. That's probably the best defensive player in my lifetime. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was, again, I waffled on this. I didn't think Joe maybe should come back if the Bengals weren't in it. And they still had a flicker of life in Baltimore and then the following week in Buffalo. So I understood why they played him. But then once the playoffs were officially eliminated from this season, just hearing Joe and Joe talking about the idea of having fun and enjoying football, I don't think it would be good for Joe's mental health to sit him the final 3 weeks. I'm also a little bit old school in the fact that these guys get paid a lot of money to play the sport, to do their job, to be entertainers. And at the core of it, if that's your job and you're paid well to do it and you can do it, you should do it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, once you get to week 18, and if Joe makes it through the next 2 weeks healthy and he plays against the Dolphins and he plays against the Cardinals and things look a little bit better and you have a better taste in your mouth and Joe's seems like he's kind of getting out of whatever mental funk he's been in for the last 10 days, I sit him week 18. At that point, this team has so many questions to answer in the offseason. The last thing they need to do is pile on top of that mountain of questions about their quarterback's health going forward in the offseason. If you get to the point, and the argument can be made, that's stupid because he has just as much chance of getting injured in week 16 and week 17 as he does week 18. I get that. But if you get to that point with Joe still healthy and you're facing Myles Garrett, you're facing an in-division opponent, you're facing a team that traditionally gives Joe trouble when it comes to quarterback hits, when it comes to sacks. At that point, if Joe has scratched the itch, has satisfied the idea of having fun, being productive, playing, and has played better and kind of gotten out of that funk, I'm with you. I would sit him week 18 and just get to the offseason with your quarterback healthy.
Totally agree. Awesome stuff, Joe. I appreciate you. Tell us all about what you got going on at Fox 19, where we can find you on social media, and Bengals Now as well. I think you had a couple more shows, no?
Yes, we have 2 more Bengals Now shows. I'll start there. So every week we are live at Newport on the Levee. We have 2 Bengals come by, and it's more of a lifestyle talk show, getting to know the players off the field, that kind of thing. Since we have holiday weeks coming up, we'll be doing those on the next 2 Mondays at Newport on the Levee at 6 o'clock. It's a free event. It's a family event. If you got family in town, need something to do, come down to Newport on the Levee, 6 o'clock each of the next 2 Mondays. Chances for autographs, chances for pictures. I know fans love that kind of stuff. And then we'll have all of our Bengals coverage here the next few weeks, including the Bengals being on Fox against Arizona. And when the Bengals are on Fox Stone, we go big. Yep. So we'll have a live pregame show starting at 9 in the morning. It's basically all Bengals coverage from 9 a.m. through the game at 4 o'clock. And then every Sunday night, our live half-hour Bengals breakdown. You know what's funny? You're going to get a kick out of this. We do a 30-minute show every Sunday night, Bengals breakdown. And we did a segment last week, was describe the Bengals season in one word. And Evan McPherson stopped us in the locker room yesterday and said, "Hey, guys, I saw your show Sunday night." You always wonder if these guys see shows like this. And he was making fun of our choices for the one word we used for the season. My word was change. My word is that it was change needs to happen. If there was ever a season that showed that change must happen, and understanding, again, that it might not be coaches or it might not be front office, something's got to change. And good on Joe Burrow for going in front of a microphone and putting it on blast for everybody in Cincinnati to hear that change has to happen. And I think change starts this offseason.
No doubt about it. Joe, I appreciate you so much. I stole you for a couple extra minutes there. I apologize for that, but thank you so much for your time. Best of luck the rest of the season, and would love to do it again soon. Appreciate you.
Anytime. Thank you for having me. Merry Christmas.
Course. Merry Christmas to you. Hey, good luck with getting your kids those tickets or whatever you decide to get them.
I need it. Thanks.
Joe Danneman, Fox 19. We appreciate him stopping by, making some time for us here on a Friday to talk Bengals. Lots to discuss. And as we talked with Joe, unfortunate that we're not talking postseason here at this point. But, yeah, we get to sit here and dissect these press conferences between Joe Burrow and, of course, Zac Taylor as well. That interview will be out in its entirety on YouTube later this afternoon. Joe Danneman, Fox 19 now. We appreciate him for making some time for us here on a Friday. All right, let's do our college football weekend preview here. We got some great games here. We got a game tonight. That's probably the best game, right? 8 and 9, Alabama and Oklahoma. We'll roll through that, and we'll go with the other 3 playoff games tomorrow there as well before we get into our Bengals preview. And, of course, our best bets of the weekend. As always, appreciate everybody for hitting that thumbs up icon, liking the stream. And, of course, subscribing not only to the channel but to the podcast there as well. Certainly appreciate it. But Bama and Oklahoma tonight, 8 versus 9. Bama opened as a 1.5 favorites in this game, and that since has flipped in the direction of Oklahoma. They are now favored in this game. I think that's probably appropriate. It is in Norman, by the way, second year of the 12-team playoff. Last year, nobody went on the road and won in the first round, so Alabama looking to be the first team to do that in the 12-team playoff era. And interesting matchup. Venables' own Kalen DeBoer, right? He beat him in the regular season this year, beat him in the regular season last year as well. And I think a lot of people might think this is going to be a bit of a rock fight, right? Oklahoma, they got a really good defense, really good pass rush. They'll turn you over. That's what led to their victory in Tuscaloosa earlier this year. They won the turnover battle 3-0, and that was kind of the story of the game for Alabama. But they struggle offensively, struggle to score points. John Mateer looked like a Heisman candidate at the beginning of the year, but then has that injury to his hand, breaks his hand, comes back, and just hasn't really looked the same ever since that. And you don't anticipate them putting together kind of long, sustained drives against this Alabama defense. Feels like they're going to be pretty reliant on the chunk play, the big play, to score their points. But of note, they do have the best kicker in the country. He will make it from everywhere, and I anticipate him playing a big role in the game tonight. For Alabama, it's all about Ty Simpson. What can he do? Can he get back to where he was at the beginning of this year and the middle of this year? Since then, the passing attack has kind of fallen off for Alabama, and they already can't run the ball, so that means they're not scoring a lot of points, and that means they're punting the football a lot, and you certainly saw that in the game against Georgia in the SEC title game. Now, Georgia, incredible defense led by the best coach in college football in Kirby Smart, but this Venables defense is the real deal too, and Alabama understands this. So they're going to have to figure out how to get the passing game going a little bit more. They get Jam Miller back, their running back. Didn't have him in the SEC title game, so it'll be good to have him back in action, and maybe he can boost their run game a little bit, try to help them be a little bit more complimentary. But Ty Simpson's going to have to make some big boy throws in this game. Sometimes you see him get some happy feet in the pocket. You've seen that the past few weeks. Didn't really see that early on in the year. He's got to get back to reading it out, playing with poise, and letting it rip and being accurate with the football. Because when his feet are aligned and he's not all out of whack, he is very surgical throwing the football. Just has gotten away from that a little bit. And he's gotten hit a ton. Nobody has gotten hit more in college football this year than Ty Simpson. He gets rocked, and I'm sure he's going to have to show his toughness again in the game tonight against Oklahoma there as well. So I definitely think Oklahoma should be favorites in this game. Again, it started out in favor of Alabama. It since has flipped. It's at home. That's a huge advantage, right? I mean, that place is going to be berserk. Playoff game, right? Norman, Oklahoma. And they're looking to get back to where they were with Lincoln Riley, right? Where, they didn't win national titles with Lincoln Riley, but, made the playoffs a couple of times and were viewed as a nationally, competent team, a perennial power in college football. Venables trying to get him back to that point. I think if you win tonight, I think you can say, yeah, Oklahoma feels like they're kind of back. So this is a huge game for both teams, right? I think if DeBoer, I think he made a lot of progress from year 1 to year 2. Still has some tendencies of not playing well on the road or being quote-unquote soft. Lots of people like to say that about his team, which I think is a little bit disrespectful, but, not necessarily a complete lie either. I think they definitely aren't nearly as physical as they were when Nick Saban was the head coach, but this is big for him, right? I mean, if you go to Alabama, miss the playoffs your first year, then make it your second year, but kind of get cold at the wrong time and then lose immediately in the first round. This is a huge game for both programs, and we'll revisit this game for our best bets of the weekend. Miami and Texas A&M. A&M 3-point favorites in this game. Kyle Field, College Station. break for Miami that this isn't going to be a night game, because Kyle Field at night is a problem, right, for anybody that goes into there. But it will be played at noon. That's an advantage for the Hurricanes. I think A&M's certainly the better team. You know, people view them as one of the best teams in college football all year. And then they lose to Texas, the final game of the year, for their first loss, and that kicks them out of the SEC title game, and you haven't really heard much from them. Defensively, they're a good team. Mike Elko's a great coach. He is going to be sticking around for a long time as the head coach of the Aggies, and Cassius Howe off the edge is going to be the X factor in this game. If he can get down to the quarterback and disrupt Carson Beck, it could be a long day for the Miami Hurricanes. Offensively, they got Craver, they got Concepcion, skill guys on the outside, and they got a guy in Marcel Reed who has a lot of talent as well. And I think a lot of people anticipated him being in New York for the Heisman. He ultimately was not. I think he probably is if you go to Austin and win that final game of the regular season. But to me, this game comes down to which quarterback's going to play cleaner football. And I would say Marcel Reed probably is going to be that guy, because I don't think he's going to have to do as much in this football game. Miami doesn't have much of a run game. A lot is going to be placed on the shoulders of Carson Beck. How's he going to handle it? We've seen Carson Beck play really good football this year. We also saw the Louisville game where he turned it over seemingly every other play, and that wasn't good whatsoever for the Miami Hurricanes. So Miami very fortunate to be in the spot. Not only did they catch a break getting in, again, I thought Notre Dame should have been in over Miami, they also get the break when they don't have to play a night game at Kyle Field. They can come in at noon and perhaps, catch A&M sleepwalking a little bit early in the day and try to pull off a big-time upset. But the line has come down, only 3 points in favor of the Aggies. This should be a good game. I think the game tonight will be good. I think this one will be solid for much of it there as well. And we also will revisit this game for our best bets of the weekend. A&M. People kind of forgetting about A&M. I don't view them as an Ohio State or a Georgia or an Oregon or a Texas Tech or a team like that. But went from they're a top 3 team in the country to, nobody's talking about them. Of course, Indiana in the mix for one of the best teams as well at that number 1 overall seed. All right, then 2 more games that we have, the 3:30 game and the night game tomorrow. These are probably games that, people are frustrated with the college football system at this point, the 12-team system, wondering why teams like Texas and Vanderbilt and Notre Dame are on the outside looking in when you've got James Madison and Tulane going out there and playing football. Look, Ole Miss, Tulane, there's the element of, it's a distraction. No Lane Kiffin. He's gone. Right? I think you're going to see this Ole Miss team kind of rally around each other and play solid in front of their home fans, put a product to be proud of on the football field in this spot. And I expect them to play well. These teams played already this year. Ole Miss beat the crud out of them. I don't really see it going in a much different way here. Huge for them. Charlie Weiss Jr., he's coming back. Obviously, Kiffin's not coming back for this game. Charlie Weiss Jr. is, and he'll be calling the plays. So that's very beneficial for Ole Miss. Trinidad Chambliss has played really good football at the quarterback position for them throughout the entirety of the year. And I just think they're going to kind of have their way in this game. I think they're going to be able to run the ball, and I think they're going to be able to pick up some chunk plays, spray it around a little bit. It's going to be very difficult for the Tulane offense to score points, I think, in this game. I think Tulane's only hope is Chambliss comes out there and is too aggressive and throws some interceptions, and you have some opportunities to get in striking distance off of turnovers and score. It kind of feels like the only way Tulane can hang around and potentially win this game. Give him credit for beating North Texas. We didn't expect that to happen, but Summerall, he's juggling these 2 jobs. He's got the Florida job. He's coaching his Tulane football team, which I respect the heck out of him for doing that, and I respect the heck out of Florida and Tulane for letting that happen, or Tulane, I guess, for letting that happen as well, because it was a great year in the history of the program, and we'll see. But I think ultimately it probably will end in Oxford tomorrow afternoon, and hopefully, as a college football fan, it can be competitive, but probably wouldn't surprise me if it was not. Lastly, James Madison and Oregon. Oregon, last I looked, 20.5-point favorites. James Madison, credit to them, heck of a year. They reaped the benefits of the ACC not being good. Right, and I would say, well, maybe figure out your tiebreakers if you're the ACC, or just play better football, right? Because if Miami is in that game, then it's totally different. They win the conference, they get in, and then you're like, well, Notre Dame probably is in, or certainly is in over James Madison. So it's not the way things shook out, but James Madison, you can't blame them for this. A lot of people are frustrated. It ain't James Madison's fault. They just reap the benefits of it, and they have a great opportunity ahead of them. Unfortunately for them, they have to go to Autzen Stadium and play Oregon. I like the whole first round on campus thing, but it's very difficult to have an upset in this situation, especially if you're James Madison, right? If this was a neutral site game, maybe they would have a prayer, but going to Autzen at night, best of luck to you. It's going to be a long night for James Madison. But I will say, I think James Madison's better than Tulane, right? James Madison has had a very good year. They're going to need their quarterback, who's a dual threat guy, to just go nuts in this game and make crazy plays on 3rd and 4th down if they want to have a chance. And they got to hope Oregon kind of just is sleepwalking a little bit in this game. Maybe that happens, but I wouldn't anticipate that happening, right? Remember what happened last year with Oregon? They were the best team. They were the one. They were the 1 seed going into the playoff, right? And they were looked at as a team that absolutely could win the national title. And then they ran into a buzzsaw in Ohio State and got smacked around in Pasadena. They got that chip on their shoulder. That is carried through this year. Make no mistake about that. Oregon is absolutely a team that can hoist the trophy at the end of this thing. They're going to be ticked off. Lanning's going to have them locked in. Wouldn't surprise me if this thing got really ugly. But James Madison, they're here for a reason. They're a solid team. They know how to win. They've won a lot of games. Of course, level of competition, the Sun Belt versus the Big Ten, there's a pretty big gap there. We all understand that. But, again, I think James Madison's probably better than Tulane. If they played, I'd probably take James Madison in that matchup. But, unfortunately for them, they got to go to Autzen, play Oregon. And, look, Oregon can run the ball. People view Dante Moore as a top draft prospect. So, it's going to be tough for James Madison. Their coach, by the way, leaving for the UCLA job. Not going to bet on either of those 2 games, but you would think, just logic would tell you that the favorites at home are going to have a good opportunity to go in there and win. All right, let's preview this Bengals game real quickly before we get into our best bets of the weekend. Bengals and Dolphins, it was 2.5. Last I looked, now it's 4.5 since the decision to go from Tua Tagovailoa to Quinn Ewers. I respect it from a Miami perspective, right? You know what Zach Wilson is. He's not a franchise quarterback here, and you don't think a 7th-round quarterback in Quinn Ewers is, but you got to give him an opportunity. And if you're Miami, what better team to give him an opportunity against than the Cincinnati Bengals, right? One of the worst defenses in the National Football League, and they've got a lot of injuries, which we'll touch on in this game there as well. But I think you can expect Miami to run the football a lot, and they've been doing that and having success doing it over the course of the past few weeks, turning around, giving it to Achane. And Achane is an unbelievable player, one of my favorite players in the league, honestly, as you know, he's got all kinds of great speed, and if it's a foot race, he's going to win 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10, to be completely honest with you. But they're also asking him to run in between the tackles, and he's a smaller guy, but he's showing some physicality in there as well, and McDaniel's scheming it up beautifully. Said on the show earlier this week, you know, to me, it's you fired the GM, and I look at this thing as more of a quarterback problem than it is a head coach problem, especially if they can come in and win against Cincinnati or keep it close with Quinn Ewers. You know, we talk about it. Kyler Murray and Tua, those are 2 contracts that you shouldn't want anything to do with, right, at this point in the NFL. So we'll see, but they make the move to go in a different direction, and Quinn Ewers is going to be the starter against Cincinnati. So expect them to run the ball a lot. Expect it to be a lot of easy stuff for Ewers, getting it out of his hands quickly, a lot of screens, right? Don't think you'll see him try to chuck it down the field a lot in this game. Ewers is a guy that, coming out of high school, people thought he was the next great thing, right? He was going to be some great NFL quarterback. Was at Ohio State for a cup of coffee, goes to Texas, starts for a couple of years, and was solid, but by no means took the world by storm, right? By no means was a Heisman guy, and you saw it. He fell all the way to the 7th round, nearly was an undrafted guy before Miami took him in the 7th round. So this is an opportunity for him. As good as he could hope for going against the Cincinnati Bengals with a good run game. Head coach that knows how to scheme things up. We'll see how he plays in the game. And also injuries, as I mentioned, are going to be huge in this game. B.J. Hill looks like he's out, not going to play. Same with Osai there as well for the Cincinnati Bengals. And T. Higgins very much up in the air as we're doing this live here on Friday. And there's one more name that's escaping me. Chris Jenkins Jr. He probably is not going to play. All those guys didn't practice on Thursday. So this Bengals defense is horrible, right? And Miami can run the ball really well. And a lot of your guys on your front aren't going to be playing. So that's a problem for the Cincinnati Bengals. Cam Sample is going to be getting a lot of tick. McKinley Jackson going to be getting a lot of tick there in the game as well. Slayton will still play, but you would expect Miami to have a lot of success running the ball in this game. Obviously, hope I'm wrong, but that's going to be the game plan. This could be a very quick game. If it's just, we'll turn around, hand it to Achane, and we'll just kind of run, bleed clock, especially if, Joe Burrow plays like he did last week. This thing could get ugly. But Cincinnati is favored for a reason, and I think it's very simple why they're favored. Joe Burrow in Miami, so whether or not can be an issue, versus a 7th-round rookie making his first career start. That's kind of what it boils down to here at this point. There's people in the fan base that say, you should lose this game. I'm not there yet, right? I don't even start thinking about that till the last game of the year against Cleveland. Was happy Joe, by the way, came on our show, Joe Danman, Fox 19. Appreciate the heck out of him for making some time. He agrees. Play Joe Burrow the rest of the way, but not the last game. Sit him down against Cleveland and kind of get into 2026 as healthy as you possibly can. But he's going to play against Miami. It's a Miami defense that has played better, but with Joe Burrow in South Beach, whether or not an issue, with Jamar Chase, you would think this is a big-time game for Cincinnati offense. You would think this is a get-right game for the Bengals offensively. You would think you can throw around 30 points in this game offensively, and anything short of 26-27 has got to be a very disappointing performance, I think. I mean, you got Burrow, you got Chase. I understand Higgins might not play, probably won't play, but you got other guys on the offense that are explosive, down-the-field guys, right? Good weather. I haven't checked. Maybe it's raining, but it ain't going to be snowing or windy or 0 degrees, right, in Miami. So I would expect this Bengals offense to be able to get going. Wouldn't surprise me if this thing turned into a shootout. We've said that many times here on the show talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. But, they're favored for a reason. You're going against a 7th-round rookie, and we'll see how this team plays. But I'm going to let Joe Burrow sling it around in this game. He's on the injury report for a knee, but he hasn't missed any time in practice. We'll check his mobility. But I'm expecting a very accurate Joe Burrow, a very locked-in Joe Burrow, and a Bengals offense that is going to be efficient and score a lot of points. That's what I'm expecting in this game. Very well could get into a shootout, which you have Joe Burrow and the other team is a 7th-round rookie. You feel good. But based on how this team has played this year, they're not on best bets of the weekend. We had them last time with the Baltimore game. But I don't have them on here this time. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if they lost. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they scored 35 and won either. But we'll see. Everybody's going to be evaluated. That's the point we've hit home all week long, right? Zach is going to be evaluated. Everybody on defense, Yoshi, offensive line, all that. So going to be a very important game to see. I understand the Bengals are eliminated, and a lot of people don't care. But as far as guys that are going to get back, guys that could get extended, coaches that are going to get fired or not get fired, these next few weeks are big, and this is a game that you should win. We've said that several times this year, but you have Burrow, you have Chase, right? I don't know, no Hendrickson, probably no Higgins as well. Against a 7th-round rookie, you should win this game. And, we think it's ugly now. The billboard's going up, right? Talking about, fire Zach, fire Duke, save Joe Burrow. It's not great here in Cincinnati, and it's going to continue to be pretty bad as well if you're not able to get some wins here throughout the rest of the year. So I think being balanced is going to be important for Cincinnati in this game, but I expect them to say, you know what, let's throw it around, right? Let's get back to our roots. Good weather, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, throw the football around, and try to get some turnovers in this game. Look, Miami's going to run it well. I will be shocked if Miami doesn't have success running the football in this game, so turnovers are going to be huge, right? There's no reason that if you're Al Golden, you can't confuse a 7th-round rookie making his first career start. There should be some throws that Quinn Ewers makes in this game where it's like, he didn't see that, right? This is an opportunity for Al Golden to show something here, right? You're not going against Justin Herbert or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. This is Quinn Ewers you're going against, and you should be able to put him in some inopportune situations and give your team a chance to create some turnovers in this game. I think if the Bengals win the turnover battle, they absolutely should win this game against the Miami Dolphins. But lots to discover in this game, lots to unpack, lots to learn about this team. And I know a lot of people have said, it's over. What are you talking about? Relax. Well, I want to see if these linebackers are going to improve at all, right? Because we just had Joe Danneman on. They can't bail off both these guys. Maybe they bail off Barrett Carter, but they can't quit. They can't afford to quit on Demetrius Knight yet. Had the best game of his career last week in a blowout at home against the Baltimore Ravens. How does he look in this game, right? Because if you go out there as a defense and get diced up by Quinn Ewers, I don't care how good of a play caller Mike McDaniel is, that is a serious, serious issue. And also the mindset of the team. There's been a lot of people, a lot of Ravens players, a lot of people nationally saying it looked like they quit in the game against Baltimore. Granted, I was at the game, so it's much more difficult to tell than when you're watching on TV. I didn't see that, but a lot of people were saying it, so it's noteworthy. How are you going to show up in this game? Are you just going to mail it in? Right? We're cooked. Let's get a higher draft pick. We don't trust our coaches. Right? We're in a tough spot. This organization stinks. They won't wipe off our seats for the fans. Mail it in. I don't know if I'm necessarily expecting that to happen either, but if that happens, that billboard about firing Zach very well could come true if they quit. Because this team just mails it in these next 3 weeks, doesn't show up, doesn't play hard, doesn't show anything, doesn't show any signs of life, I think you're in a spot where it's like, okay, change needs to be made. I've said that multiple times. If your team quits, there's no coming back from that. You don't come back from your team quitting in the National Football League. It just does not happen. So we'll see. Bengals, Dolphins. Bengals now 4.5-point favorites. Sunday at 1 o'clock was supposed to be a primetime game, but when both teams are no good, unfortunately that does not happen anymore. But looking forward to the game, and we'll be live. Reed Mouse, Craig Sandlin will have you covered during our watch-along on Sunday. Lastly, before we get out of here, our best bets of the weekend. We've got 6 plays here this week. Last week was not good. We're trying to move on. And look, I understand it's December 19th, right? Tomorrow's December 20th. We got to go. We got to go now. So we need a big-time week. Here we go. 6 plays. We'll start tonight. Alabama going to Oklahoma. Plus 1.5 on the road. Give me the Crimson Tide in this game. Right? They got the better quarterback, and in my opinion, they got the better head coach, but he's got to prove it because right now Venables has his number, 2-0 against them the past 2 years. You go 3-0, you go 0-3 if you're Kalen DeBoer against Brent Venables, that's a problem. That's a serious, serious issue. As we mentioned in our preview segment, this game is huge for both schools, for both programs. And look, if you're not a college football person, I really encourage you to get to the TV set and watch this game, right? Because you have the pageantry of a home college football game, a raucous environment, right? And you couple that with playoffs, pretty awesome. And it's going to be great. Norman's going to be rocking. I think Jam Miller coming back is huge. Alabama can't really run the ball, but I think they'll run it better with Jam Miller, right? In between the tackles, he'll show his toughness and his physicality, but that's not why it is a key that Jam Miller's coming back. It's key from pass pro, right? Because you had Daniel Hill and guys back there in the SEC title game who just were not helping Ty Simpson out at all, and he was getting clobbered, right? One thing that Jam is incredible at is his pass pro, and he's going to do a great job of that against Oklahoma. Ty's got to settle down. He's got to take what the defense gives him. He's got to keep his feet in order and be accurate with the football because if Simpson doesn't play well tonight, we ain't covering the spread. But I say he does. I think that week of rest is huge, right? I think it probably would have been better for Alabama not to play in the SEC title game just because they're so banged up. I'm telling you, Simpson has been rocked all year long, but I think the week of rest should help. I think you'll see a refreshed Ty Simpson. I think you'll see a locked-in Kalen DeBoer. People talk about, oh, distractions, the Michigan job, the Penn State job. They never really were distractions because Kalen DeBoer was like, that ain't happening. So I don't think the team's going to be distracted at all. And they've got an opportunity here. And winner, of course, gets Indiana, which is going to be a tough matchup for either team. But give me Alabama tonight, plus 1.5. A&M, -3 at home. This line's moving. I don't really know why. Miami's not going to be able to run the ball much in this game. That's going to be a lot on the shoulders of Carson Beck. I don't trust him. Carson Beck at times throughout his career has been really, really good. He was a scapegoat in Georgia. I don't blame him at all for how things ended in Georgia. I really don't, right? But he's done some stuff, said some stuff, off-the-field issues that make you kind of not like the guy, right, if we're being completely honest. He's going to have to play really well for the Canes. And Elko's going to outcoach Cristobal in this game. Cristobal in big games has proven that he can't do it, right, if we're just going to keep it a buck here, right? And I expect A&M, protect home field. It's noon. It's early. We understand that, but that's going to be a raucous environment at Kyle Field. Hopefully it's a good competitive game for the sake of our viewing pleasure, but I think they cover the 3 points. Give me the Aggies -3. Green Bay, they've been a wagon for us all year. We took them last week. It didn't work. Micah Parsons goes out, ACL. They lose to the Denver Broncos. We had them against Chicago a couple of weeks ago. I'll do it again. This time they're going to Soldier Field. They're underdogs in this game, plus 1.5. Talking about this with Reed on Off the Bench. I think you're going to see Matt LaFleur really show what he's capable of here over the course of the next few weeks. Doesn't have Micah Parsons, still has his quarterback. Watson banged up, Jaden Reed back. Jaden Reed getting a little bit more healthy in the process as well. Josh Jacobs, he's banged up, but he's been very reliable as far as, picking up 4 or 5 yards on first down. He's not going to have that big explosive run where he runs for 45 yards and scores, but he's a tough guy, he's a physical guy, and they're going to be able to pick up some tough physical yards in this game. Caleb Williams, talked about this on Off the Bench. I don't trust him. Doesn't complete enough of his passes. Plays hero ball too much. Not good enough from within the pocket. Ben Johnson's exceptional. He's going to put him in good spots. Williams is going to make 3 or 4 plays where you say, wow, in this game. But he's also going to make 3 or 4 plays where you say, that's a layup and you just missed, right? Give me Green Bay in this game. Take the 1.5, but I think they win outright. Packers, plus 1.5. I don't know why I'm doing this. Probably not a good idea. The public is all over Buffalo going to Cleveland. Look, you've seen teams go into Cleveland and struggle to dominate the game, right? Green Bay certainly has struggled there in that spot. Cleveland's a mess. Betting on Cleveland is not a great thing, but we're going to do it here, right? Plus 10.5. Bills coming into town. Bills win this game, but I think they win 7, 8, 10 points. I like the hook here. Give me the Browns to cover. I don't feel great about this, but this is the right thing to do. If you're gambling on this game, this is the right thing to do. I don't feel great about it, but we're doing it. Cleveland, plus 10.5. And also sometimes you see a line and you're like, what? And then you do it, right? Nobody. The public is all over New England plus 3. Vegas knows something here. Give me Baltimore minus 3 Sunday Night Football at home. Lamar Jackson, bright lights. I think he's going to have to play, right? He didn't have to play against Cincinnati. He didn't do anything in the Cincinnati game. 8 of 12, didn't run the ball either. He's going to have to play quarterback in this game, and I have been waiting for him to put a great performance out there. I get he's banged up, but if he's one of the best players like we view him to be, he's got to be able to have a really effective game when he's banged up, and I think he will. New England, they're coming back down to life a little bit after the Buffalo loss. This is a huge game. Vrabel's going to have them ready. Going into Baltimore, they're trying to stay alive in the division, right? This is a huge game for the Ravens. Sunday Night Football. Patriots going after that 1 seed still. Give me Baltimore to cover minus 3 at home against New England. And lastly, Monday Night Football, Niners. I'll lay the 5.5 against the Indianapolis Colts. Part of me is rooting for Phillip, right? Grandpa Phillip out there, 44 years of age, off the couch after 5 years, probably 40 pounds heavier than he was when he was playing. Played solid against Seattle, really did. And I think they're going to score points in this game against the San Francisco 49ers. I really do, but the Niners are dangerous, man. They're banged up on defense. They got a bunch of backups out there, but Salah's got them playing hard, and Brock Purdy's settling in. He's playing good football. He's cutting it loose, and I like the San Francisco 49ers minus 5.5 in this spot. Alabama, plus 1.5. Texas A&M, minus 3. Packers, plus 1.5. Browns, plus 10.5. Ravens, minus 3. 49ers, minus 5.5. Our best bets of the weekend. Need a bounce-back week. And let's see if we can't get things on the right foot here with Alabama tonight. Appreciate everyone as always. Great week here at the show. A couple of great guests. Had Joe Danneman on Fox 19. That video or that interview will be out here shortly. We appreciate the heck out of him making some time for us on a Friday. Joe Danneman, Fox 19. Great stuff on the Cincinnati Bengals, and hope to have him on again in the near future. And that was a heck of a lot of fun. Terry Nelson on yesterday, by the way. That interview was out over on the channel as well. Reed had Keegan Nixon on. Talked a lot of Wes Miller. Some really interesting comments from Keegan. He got straight to the point. He didn't dance around, beat around the bushes by any stretch. He was very, hey, this is how it is with Wes Miller. That will be up later if you missed it. Podcast will be up later this afternoon as well. And certainly look forward to that. Paul Fritchner, that interview went out last night as well. Reed, and Paul on the show yesterday talking Cincinnati area basketball. Xavier, Miami, Cincinnati Bearcats there, of course, as well. All right, the plan for next week. We are planning on doing shows every weekday besides Christmas Eve, Christmas, and New Year's Day. The plan is to have shows every other day. So if you can watch live, great. Join us. We'll be having a heck of a lot of fun. If you can't, it's fine. Podcasts will be up there as well. But we plan on doing shows every day besides Christmas, Christmas Eve, and New Year's Day. Appreciate everyone as always. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the football, and we will be back on Monday. Craig Sandlin, Reed Mouse got you covered on Sunday for the watch-along. And I believe, rumor on the street, Craig Sandlin going to be live here in studio, coming up from Memphis to the chilly Cincinnati, Ohio to join Reed live in studio. I believe that's what's happening. But stick around, stay tuned for that on Sunday. Appreciate everyone as always. Have a great weekend, everybody.